Hi, I'm Olivia, and I'm the Witch of Wonderlust, and this is my gecko, Geeko. Yes, that's his real name. I named him when I was in 5th grade. Don't come for me. He was getting a little restless in his tank, so I decided to take him out for a little bit. So if you not have met Geeko the gecko, that is Geeko the gecko. He's an old man. I've had him 11 or 12 years, so he's a good little companion. If you can hear this buzzing in the background, it's my fan. It's just way too hot to not have a fan on me right now in my room. It's so hot that I am just drinking room temperature tea because I couldn't drink hot tea. But today I'm drinking this matcha blueberry by Tipsin. I got it in my Sips by box. Y'all know I love my Sips by box. Personalized tea depending on what your taste is and sends it to you every single month. If you want to try the Sips by, you can get $5 off of your first box using this discount code, and let me know what you think of your first box because my first box was amazing and now I'm hooked. So today in this video I'm going to be talking about the details in spellcasting. It's one of those things that nobody seems to talk about, I guess, and it's one of those things that made the biggest difference. When people talk about casting a spell or doing any kind of magical working, a lot of the time they just kind of brush over these little details that seem to be pretty important, but nobody really goes in depth in talking about. So there's plenty of different ways to do this. Obviously, because I'm not a professional in any of these things, none of these things are set in stone, so don't feel like what I'm telling you, the way to do X, Y, and Z are the only ways to do X, Y, and Z, and if you don't do it this way, then it won't work. That's not true. I'm just giving you kind of a foundation or an idea of maybe where to start and maybe things that might work best for you. So the first thing is cleansing. Cleansing is a base. It's just a basis of spellcasting in general. It's something that you should know kind of before everything else. It's just really important. So cleansing is the act of removing energy off of an object, a person, or out of an area, out of a space. And so this doesn't always mean bad energy. This can also mean stale energy or just energy that's left over or lingering on an object, a person, or lingering around in a space. So the reason cleansing is important is because say you take an object home, you just bought a candle that you're going to use for working. You want to cleanse that candle because the energies that candle has come into contact are probably not going to work well with your intention and the energy that you're putting into the candle for the working. From the moment that candle was made to it being shipped to the store to all the people handling it and looking at it and then you buying it and taking it home, it's come into contact with a lot of different energies, so you just kind of want to wipe it clean so that you can infuse it with your energy. And the amount of times you cleanse, how you cleanse, that is all personal to you. So some people believe that you should cleanse your altar or your space or your tools or your tarot cards or whatever once a week, every day, every time you use it, before and after use. It really depends on you. I rarely cleanse my tarot cards, for instance, unless I feel like they need to be cleansed. I am a busy witch and I'm a lazy witch. So, I don't have the capacity to keep up with something like that. So really just take it at your pace, and if you feel like something needs cleansing, then cleanse it. There's no harm in it. And some of the really common ways are using the smoke of dried herbs. So you'll see herb bundles, and each bundle has a different meaning, but really you can use any kind of smoke for that. Smoke of incense. Sometimes you can just wash something off. You can use sound, so sound bowls, music. One of my friends says that she screams at her crystals. You do you. And the last one is visualization, which is another favorite of mine because you don't really need anything to do that. You just kind of visualize all of the energy, I guess, melting away off of the object that you're cleansing or the thing that you're cleansing. And to cleanse yourself, you can also do things like baths or showers. So once you've cleansed your object or you get cleansing down, really the final feeling that you want is you should intuitively feel like there's no remnants of of unwanted energy. So basically you just don't want the remnants of unwanted energy lingering on your tools, in your space, or on yourself. So the next step is activating, charging, blessing, enchanting, whatever you may call it. This part was the biggest part that helped me out because it really solidifies your intention, which is the most important part of casting at all. So really you are just telling the ingredient or the tool why you're using it in your spell. Most of the time this applies to ingredients. So say you're using cinnamon in your spell. Cinnamon can be used for a lot of different things. It can be used for passion, for lust, for speed, for prosperity, but what are you using the cinnamon in your spell for? So activating that ingredient is going to help you a lot in solidifying that intention and telling the ingredient why you're using it in your spell. Say you're doing a prosperity spell and you are using cinnamon. Most likely you won't have a use for the passionate side of cinnamon in your prosperity spell, but you can charge the cinnamon and say, I activate this cinnamon to attract prosperity and to bring prosperity with speed. It's the same thing with crystals. So say you're using a rose quartz crystal for love and you specifically ask it, bring calming aspects and acceptance with self-love or love within XYZ relationship. That is the biggest part, is telling your ingredients what they are meant to do in your spell, because then it kind of just like solidifies that reasoning and solidifies that intention. You can do this in a variety of different ways. Just figure out a way that works for you. Some people will call upon the elements and draw a 4 cross over their ingredients. Some people will call upon certain deities. Some people will draw pentagrams, and you're gonna figure out a way that works best for you and that feels the most potent to you. A lot of the time I just like to hold my hand over something and I guess push that intention through my arms into my palms and into that ingredient or that specific tool. I like to try to say it out loud just because it's easier to make it more of a solid intention than it is just thinking about it. But again, if you're not able to just say it out loud and you're just chilling in public or like with your family, then it's not a huge deal. Another detail that I feel like is kind of glossed over is visualization. Visualization. Oh my god, Geeko, I swear. Visualization is a huge part of energy work. This comes easier to some and not so easy to others, but really if you just practice, it comes a lot easier the more you do it. Think about an apple in your hand. You can close your eyes or not, whatever works best for you, but just really try to create this apple as real as you possibly can in your head. I mean, think about like the way the light hits off of it. What color is it? How big is it? What's the weight feel like in your hands? What's it smell like? What would it taste like if you bit out of it? Start practicing things like that. Visualization comes a lot easier, and that comes into cleansing things, charging things, grounding. I mean, it really kind of goes into a lot of things. Visualization is a huge, huge part of practicing. When you're doing your spell, you want to visualize things as if it's already done. So if you're visualizing rent paid in full by the end of the month, it's already done. Once you're doing your spell, you want to visualize you've already paid rent. You've already paid rent. So what does that feel like? What does that writing the check to your landlord, sending it off, that energy feel like? You're going to visualize it so real that you almost believe that it actually is already done. And that part is also a really huge part that helped me with my manifestations. So really just what does it feel like energetically? Like you know, when you enter a room or when you meet somebody, they have that vibe. What does that feel like, that situation that you're trying to change, that goal? What does the end goal of your manifestation feel like? And that is the thing that you want to visualize and kind of manifest in your head and make it so real. Start with a baseline and then just add the details as it goes. So last but not least, finishing your spell work. This is a question that I get a lot. I'm about to admit something to you. I'm kind of a bad witch sometimes because there are some spells that I will just throw into the trash can. Look, I live in a city. It's not easy just to run into the woods and bury everything, okay? But it depends on the spell. This is a really open-ended question, so things like jar spells, if it's something that you're constantly working, then you're not really finishing it, you're just constantly working it. It just depends on the intention of that spell and what the outcome was. So if it's finished and you're done, then you can kind of just deconstruct it and throw it away. If it's finished and you want to keep something close to you, or if you want to ground something, if you want to keep it in works, essentially, then you want to bury it. And then think about, is this something that you want to keep close to you? Bury it close to you. Bury it in your front or backyard. I know that there are different beliefs as to burying it in your front yard or burying it in your backyard. I just use a potted plant because I don't own the land that I'm living on, so I can't really just dig holes in it without getting in trouble. So I use just a big potted plant, so it doesn't really matter to me if I bury it in the front of the backyard. If you were doing baneful work, or if it was a banishing work, then you want to bury it as far away from you as possible. So bury close to keep close, bury far to keep far. You can burn things to release something, or to banish something, or to destroy something. You can send it into the air, so say that you burnt it and then you blow it into ashes, or you scatter them into ashes, then that is kind of releasing something into the universe. Deconstructing a spell is ending or reversing depending on what your intention is. So, you know, if you have a jar spell, or if you have a spell doll and you no longer need it, you can just very nicely deconstruct it and take it apart, and that should either end the spell or reverse the spell depending on what the working was and what your intention is taking apart. And then lastly, you can leave it somewhere, so this is still kind of like an active spell that you might still work, or that you just kind of keep around. So I mean, sigils in your shoes, or a travel or safety charm bag left in your car, you know, something like that, or like a dream bag that you leave under your bed, just things like that. There's also things of throwing things into the ocean or into running water, but I don't like to tell people to do that, just because I am just worried that they're going to throw something that isn't safe for the environment into running water or the ocean, and we have enough of that. So, you know, try not to do that. If you're burying something into the ground, same gist, which is another reason I like to use just a big potted plant, is because I don't really want to bury things that don't work well with the earth in the earth. And if I ever need to dig it up, I know exactly where it is, because that would suck if I was like, this didn't go as well as I thought it was going to, and then I don't know where I buried my spell. That's a big pickle. So, and that has happened to me before. So just don't remember where you bury things, okay? I think those are all the main details of spellcasting that people usually ask me about, and that I feel like helped me out the most. Again, these are details, so they're not big things that made this huge difference. They're not big things, but they're little things that made a really big difference in my spellcasting, that I noticed my manifestations were much more specific and seemed stronger. So try these out, let me know how they work for you, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, let me know. If you'd like to share any kind of spell work, any kind of witchiness, or just in general, use the hashtag WonderlustCoven on Instagram, because I like to scroll through that all the time. You all are so great with using that hashtag. It's really cool to look at just the totally different ways of practicing and how you are using some of the suggestions that I've given you, or even the suggestions that you've given me, and it's really cool. Also, if you want to join the Wonderlust Coven, if you have not already, you can just hit subscribe and then you're all set. Or you can go into the forums. So I have forums on my website. It's linked down below. It's just basically just a forum for the Wonderlust Coven. So you can talk about anything you like, witchy or not. It's a really great community. People are super nice and helpful, and it's just a bunch of people learning together, which is kind of amazing. I do have some other interesting things coming up this month. So stay tuned, and that's all for you this video. I hope that this helped. Let me know how things work out for you, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Best of luck, be kind to each other, and may your gods treat you as you've treated others. Bye.